Max was an accomplished executive until his mental health began to deteriorate. He was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and came in seeking therapy. As the counseling proceeded, Max confessed how he had used alcohol and sex to cope. Max's mental illness stems from unresolved adverse childhood experiences that lead him to think he was a failure and unworthy of affection growing up. The drinking and sex were merely his way of numbing the pain and filling the void he was experiencing.
Well, I've had depression and high levels of anxiety for many years. This kind of manifested in low levels of self-confidence and high levels of self-hatred and self-loathing. And really it became like a loss of identity for me. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. There were feelings of shame. My lowest point was where I thought, well, what am I doing here on earth? I'm a human being that's, taking up a seat, in life. I'm not doing anything. I'm not achieving anything. Nothing matters. I'm just basically marking time until I die, whenever that is. And so I realized that, if I've got another, 40, 50 years left on earth, whatever, hopefully, that if I'm just sitting around doing nothing, then that's a waste of not only my life, but my potential. And if I kept all of those feelings inside and not talk to anyone about that, then nothing will change, right? Because I know we all have feelings of potentially shame and that we're not perfect, etc. So it's not about that, but it's about if I don't share my struggles with someone who can help me, then nothing will ever change, and I won't be able to realize the potential that I may have in the future. Growing up as a kid, my dad used to beat me up, and I didn't have a very happy childhood in that respect. So I think from a young age that there were always these seeds that I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't, at a level that I should have been, that something was my fault, right? So over time, that sensation, that feeling grew and just manifested as I became older. I would go out and I would drink excessively, I would binge drink, I would go out and have, lots of sexual encounters to try and numb the feeling of failure, basically, right? So if I wasn't worth something as a human being, then that pain that I felt from that, I could cancel it out by, binge drinking for a night or a weekend. And that didn't help. It helped for a period of time, but in hindsight, it really only made things worse, because it doesn't actually resolve or deal with any of these issues. It just masks them up for a period of time, and you replace them with other issues. So yeah, it's not helpful in the long run. So my dad used to suffocate me. So when I would we'd have a conflict, right? And I would not scream, but I would scream kind of to make him stop doing what he was doing. And the louder that I would scream, the harder he would restrict my breathing, to the point where he would just cover my mouth and my nose, right, until I stopped. And I didn't want to stop because I wanted to win. And it's a weird feeling, but when you've got a man's hand over your mouth and you're a kid and they're trying to deliberately stop you from breathing so you stop screaming, that's not cool. And I know that now, but at the time, it wasn't pleasant, obviously. But it's not until I'm an adult that I look back at that period and realize that was actually, not right at all. That was like when I was 9 or 10, right? So when you're that young, and that behavior, you're observing this behavior from a role model, a parent, that kind of sets the tone, because you don't know, is this normal? Is this what other kids are going through? Does this happen to other people? And you kind of just brush that aside as, oh, okay, well, this must be what happens, right? I must have done something wrong. It's my fault. It's not until I was much older that I realized that, well, hang on, like that kind of behavior, it's not necessarily normal. And then I would try and trace back, well, what was I actually doing? Was I a brat as a kid? Not really, not more than any other kid, I guess. And even if I was, did the reaction that I got from my dad, was that worth, was that reaction an overreaction from him, basically? And I think it was. But again, even right now, like, I still feel that there's a part of me that thinks, well, maybe I was to blame for some of it. And I'm not sure that feeling will ever go, but I'm working on it. Well, it's really confronting, because you see it on TV or you hear about it, online or whatever, and you think, yeah, I can do that. But it's when you first go, that first session, that first question, like, that's really hard, because I think in two things. One, you're actually admitting to someone else that's not you, that, I've got things I need to work on. And, human beings, we're not necessarily good at being vulnerable like that, and admitting our flaws or admitting that we need help. So yeah, it's very confronting. However, once you go and take that first step, and then you keep taking those steps, the process becomes much easier, and you can actually see the benefits in your life. The worst experience for me was when somebody just wasn't listening. They were telling me what they thought that I was, should be doing, or what my problems were. And having been through that experience, I know that it's not about someone telling someone, this is what your issue is and this is what you need to do. It's not about that. It's about having conversations, because we're humans, right? And you can only understand fully what somebody is experiencing if you have conversations and if you listen. So I think therapists that don't listen, or have a preconceived idea of what somebody's problems or issues are, that's not good. And I have experienced that. I think it's sharing the load, right? And like, if an analogy is like, if you've got like a couple of sandbags or heavy equipment, right, and you're walking home from the shops or whatever, it's finding someone that can listen, that can help you, who genuinely wants to help, because they have an interest in, people, in you, and trying to help you make sense of your issues, whatever they are. And having somebody listen and somebody to talk to through counseling made me realize that, that may have had nothing to do with me at all, right? And that my life is still of value and is of worth, and that, sure, I can't erase these experiences, but I can, put them in a box and leave them in the past and move forward, and lose that weight that I've been carrying around. For me, the best thing is having someone who listens, truly listens, and can engage in a one-on-one conversation to help, in my experience, help me with my stuff, and try and find a path through that's positive. That I'm an okay human being, and that everybody has stuff, and I think I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so counseling made me realize that it's okay not to be perfect all the time, that, you know, everybody has flaws or corners in their experience that aren't necessarily sharp, but that's life, and that's okay. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that, you know, we can walk through life with these flaws, these imperfections, but that's what makes us human. And acknowledging that through counseling has been my biggest takeaway. Honestly, I recommend counseling for everybody. I don't think you need to be, you know, have problems or be sick or whatever to see a therapist or a counselor, because everyone, we're humans, right? Everyone has things that they can't talk about with their family or their friends or whatever. So having someone who is a third party, who is independent, who is on your side completely, that's the best thing about counseling. Yeah, see a counselor, because I think that a lot of people, as I said, that first step is really hard, because it's almost like you're admitting that, you know, something's wrong or you're a failure, right? And it's nothing to do with that at all. It's about asking for help, right? So it's exactly the same as if you go to the gym, right? You walk into the gym, that first session, that first minute, the first 5 minutes is awkward, you don't know what you're doing, but you can see the benefits and it really helps. So like, for anybody who is in this position, the first step is to see someone and just be honest, because counselors are there to help you and help me. And if you're not completely honest, then, you know, they can't help.
Max is a true believer in therapy. By being vulnerable and ready to explore different perspectives during sessions, his life has been more balanced, happier, and productive. He has realized that life is a journey and that it's okay to stumble. Therapy has put Max in a brighter place.